Wow, I've got to remember how to use this thing. There we go. I am thrilled to invite you guys and to welcome you for our first in-person summit. It's our biggest summit ever. I believe there are people from 27 countries, is what I heard, and 20 industries, including most of the service providers in the world by this point. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here in the Black Forest. Thank you so much for coming. I want to take a little stroll down memory lane. I see from the gray hair that probably some of us go back a lot further than this, but I'm just going to go back to 2015 when SAP released S/4HANA. And at that time, the 2027 deadline, I think it was 23 at the time, but what became the 2027 deadline seemed like a very long way away. And then COVID came, and there was suddenly an enormous demand for business transformation services. And all of these businesses that had been, brick and mortar and doing analog business for so many years realized that they had to modernize and update. And virtually every business in the world has been running like crazy to do business transformation in the meantime. And then to add to that, we have the pressures from Wall Street, which are driving up profitability amongst the world's largest companies, and that means driving costs down as well as driving prices up. And I sort of feel like, we all lost track a little bit of that 2027 deadline. And two things changed. And one is that 2027 is now within the budget cycle of most large organizations doing 3 to 5 year budget plans. And the second thing is that Rise with SAP changes the equation a little bit, because do you want to do 2 pieces of transformation, of IT transformation, or do you want to do just one? And I'll hold that for a little while. The point I'm trying to make is that you need to decide now what your plan is going to be. You don't necessarily need to do it now, but there's good news. The good news is that you've got choices. You've actually got more choices than you've ever had before. You've got 3 amazing hyperscalers with Google, Microsoft, and Amazon in no particular order, who have all got phenomenal offerings for IT transformation and S/4HANA. You've got SAP Rise. There are on-premise options. In fact, I'm talking to more and more CIOs who are saying, actually, for our business, we've done the math, we've run the numbers, and it makes much more sense for us to move back on premise. And so we're seeing people buying these big IBM and HP big iron boxes like in the good old days. You could also go somewhere else. I implemented SAP ERP Business Suite at our former business. And I think if we were reaching in that particular business the 2027 deadline, we'd probably say, do you know what, we're not going to move to S4, we're going to move to something else. We might move to Grow with SAP or maybe Business One. I don't know. You'd have to think about that. The point being is that there are so many options to choose from, and you need to choose the one that is right for your business. To add to that, SAP has a pretty rich history of not leaving customers out to dry. In fact, I was talking to somebody at SAP in Waldorf this week, and we were talking about R2. There are still R2 systems from the 70s out there, and those systems, they're not used for any major purpose. They're used for data archiving, retrieval for audit purposes. But the point is that these systems are still out there, and they chose not to modernize that system because for whatever business reason, they were sunsetting it. So, as you're budgeting for 24, 5, 6, and 7, you need to think about what your choices are going to be. You can consider extended maintenance. They're going to extend through 2030, I believe. And even beyond that, you can have customer-specific maintenance. Customers can run those systems for as long as they need to, if that's what's right for their business. And only in one situation, in my opinion, which is where you have a system which is going to be sunsetted beyond in a short enough timeline. There are options for either not having maintenance or doing third-party maintenance I'm not personally a believer in that for systems that have real productive business use. But if you've got a business unit which is in decline and you plan to shut it down, then you may just not want to invest at all. Moving on from that, one of the things that we're really proud at Avantra is our culture of inclusivity. We have now 30% women, up from like under 5% when I joined 3 years ago. And people from 15 different countries. We're only 70 employees, but there are 15 different nationalities. And we have a value of caring, which is about celebrating your whole self and bringing your whole self to work. And what that does is that creates more diverse teams, and more diverse teams deliver better business results. It's proven, it's a thing. And we bring the same attitude to our software. We have customers that run unbelievably old versions of SAP. We've got, I see someone's laughing, we've got customers running HP Unix, OSF1, if anyone remembers that. Anyone remember OSF1? People are nodding. And even, I do judge this a little bit, Windows, I found a Windows NT system out there somewhere. So, but anyway, customers running R3 4.6c, we've got a bunch of those from 2003, was it? And you can still run the latest version of Avantra, although not all functionality is available on those oldest versions. And I don't think you believe this, but there are 24,000 different platform combinations across the Avantra install base, 24,000 combinations. That's not the theoretical number, that's the number that we actually have running at customers. So the diversity in our install base is enormous. But we also run the newest S/4HANA 2022, and soon, I believe they're releasing in October, S/4HANA 2023. They took the same naming convention as us. We support SAP RISE, and BTP, and the SAP SaaS offerings. And customers have all of this. They have the legacy sitting next and integrated into the leading edge. And those different business applications have different support requirements. One size does not fit all. And our message is to you, our job is not to judge your business strategy, which will drive your IT strategy. Our job is to support you, and whatever your choices are, whether you want to stay on-premise and stay on the version that you're on, whether you want to move to RISE or a hyperscaler, whatever your choice is, we'll support you with that, and we won't leave you behind. Whilst we're on the RISE topic, I have heard, we've had a couple of conversations with the customers, and they're like, do we really need Avantra when we move to RISE? And I said, well, you've got to make that decision for yourself. But what we find is that then they get the 146-page, anyone read it, RACI document for RISE? 146 pages long of roles and responsibilities. And they soon realize they need Avantra more than ever. And as I see someone laughing in the audience because he knows we had that exact conversation this week with a customer who came to the realization that now more than ever, they need a platform which can not only help them manage their environment, but help them manage their relationships and have better relationships with suppliers. And I want to go back in history again for a short while. I've been here in Avantra for 3 years now. When I joined, we were 20 people doing monitoring automation. And at that time in 2020, we created a vision to be the number one in SAP observability and AIOps. While the work is never done, and particularly I'm sure Bernd would agree, he was in the audience yesterday laughing at me, but the work is never done, but we are there, and we are number one. We've got more systems under management than any other platform like it. We support more platforms and applications. Today it's 24,000. By the end of the year, there'll probably be 25,000 different combinations. We're more secure than anyone else, but we are not complacent. Believe me, we just upgraded to ISO 27001 2023 before anyone else, actually so early that the auditors are also scrambling to have themselves be certified because they have to certify to do the inspections. And we pen test every new version of our product when it comes out. And we just completed that last week, actually. We got through that. It's always a little bit stressful. And we encourage our customers to do the same. If they find things, we fix them. Simple as that. Some of the very, very large companies in the world have very sophisticated pen testing teams, and we take their advice very seriously. Anyway, in this last 3 years, the product development team is 3 times bigger than it was, and we are super proud to be Avantra today. So what's next? Well, Bernd and Brenton will show you the details of Avantra 24. So I've threatened to, but I'm not going to steal their thunder. I'll let them tell you the story there. But let's talk a little bit about the long-range plan. And, you know, beyond more observability and automation use cases, for example, one of our #1 requests is data masking. That's something we're looking at. That's a given. Beyond more investment in product engineering, we're just going through our long-range planning for that and ramping that up for next year. That's a given. Beyond scaling the product so we can run on tens and even hundreds of thousands of systems in future, that's a given. We'll continue to work on that. You know, when I moved here, the biggest customer I think had sort of 500 or 600 systems under management. I think the biggest is well into 5 digits now. The market has consolidated with service providers in particular, and they have massive amounts of systems under management. But that's a given. But in addition to that, we're going to go up the stack. And the reason for that is that SAP RISE is increasing and brings even more enterprise application architecture complexity. You know, one example I can give you, it's a almost banal example, but it's in my opinion, is a good one. And I was working for a very large business trying to get a healthcare benefit. And I couldn't get it to go through, and it wasn't working. And so I had to raise an HR ticket. Well, HR then raised an IT ticket. And it turned out that my date of birth had been entered wrong, and it had been corrected. And there was a piece of middleware, and its only job was to update personal information from the SAP Central Employee Management System out to SuccessFactors. Aetna, the healthcare provider, was syncing with SuccessFactors. Because that piece of middleware had broken weeks before, I was then unable to get some prescription or whatever it was at that point in time. And that's absolutely insane. If you think about the kind of businesses that run SAP, the kind of business processes that run on that, order to cash is you know, the classic one, but you've got hire to retire, you've got procure to pay, and other industry-specific processes. But it's totally unacceptable if hire to retire or OTC is not running. So you need to know what are the components within that, what are the interfaces, what is the status of those, what's the cause of the problem, and then what's the solution? How do we automate, not only to the extent that we can, root cause analysis, but also problem resolution? How do we give the troubleshooters, some of which are in this room, better tools, more powerful tools to diagnose and then automate, potentially en masse, the repair? And I was chatting with this with a service provider, and he's watching. He knows who he is, and he said, I don't know that that's really relevant. I'm not, he said, maybe some large enterprises, maybe they need this, but I don't know how it relates to our business. And so I took the feedback and I listened. And I woke up the next day and I thought, do you know what, that's not right. And the reason is that we're not just IT people, IT ops people, whatever we want to call ourselves, basis engineers, whatever label you give yourself. We are people that keep the business running. And it's incumbent upon us to go up into the business layer to understand. We need to understand, is order to cash running? And if it's not, we need to know before we get the phone call. One of my customers was a prospect at the time. He said, the problem that I want to fix, he said, I don't like getting called by the CFO to tell me that finance is down. He's like, that really upsets me. He's like, I'd like to know 5 minutes before him. If I knew when he picked up, when I got the call, I knew, that would be better than the situation I'm in right now. That's a low bar, by the way. It's incumbent upon all of us to go up the stack and think about the business, because we're not just IT ops people, we support the business. That's inevitably going to take us into other business applications. Our number 2 ask from customers, probably, these are no particular order, but one of the big asks is better support for SAP business applications, particularly BTP, but also the SaaS applications, from the S4 public cloud to Ariba SuccessFactors. And we've been working with SAP to get better interfaces to get information. We're starting to prepare our platform for localization. This guy here. And while we're not going to put a firm timeline at this point for new languages, we've got work to do. One of the big asks we get now is for language support, as we're getting out into more teams that are local in other places. And so localization is in the longer term plan. And lastly, we're investing in something new, but I promised Bernd that I wasn't going to steal his thunder. So if you want to know about that, you'll have to stay. So now it's time for the main event and to learn more about what's coming this year in Avantra 24 and beyond. Hopefully you learned why I'm so excited to be at Avantra, and we are going to continue to lead the SAP AIOps platform, and we are absolutely thrilled to have you on the journey. Thank you so much. Oh, there you are.
Well done, John. Thank you.